Hello everybody, this is Mr. Phipps. Whoa, I got way too close to the camera there as I leaned in. Sorry about that. Hope you didn't see right into my brain. Scary in there. We've been talking about the American colonies getting started, and one of the groups we talked about, we're learning about, is the Puritans. And we talked about how the Pilgrims and the Puritans came to America under the supposed reason of religious freedom. They wanted to be able to practice religion the way they wanted to, which was not possible in England because of the Church of England and Henry VIII's policies that you had to do it his way or big trouble, jail, even execution. So they came to America for religious freedom. Here's what we're going to find out, though. Maybe you've already seen this coming. They got here and they got to do it their way, but they didn't want anybody else to do it another way. So that started different colonies breaking off because they didn't like the way the Puritans were doing it there, so they wanted to do it their way here. And pretty soon it was basically the same kind of fight here in America as it was back in England, only now the Puritans were in charge. And that's going to lead indirectly to this thing called the Salem witch trials. And it's a crazy story. One of the most spooky and crazy stories that we talk about in this class. Basically, the Salem witch trials, people lost their minds and started accusing everyone of being witches. It's known as hysteria. What's that mean? Well, it's when a big group of people sort of all start to believe the same thing, and they go kind of crazy for a while. We call the Indiana basketball tournaments each March Hoosier hysteria, because so many fans, especially back in the older days before class basketball, when everybody was in the same class, man, people lost their minds, and it was all anybody talked about. Hoosier hysteria, basketball. Well, hysteria played a huge role in the Salem witch trials too, because it all started with a couple of girls, young girls, maybe a little younger than you, about your age, fooling around. They were bored. Puritan lifestyle was very strict, probably not a lot of fun for teenagers. So they were kind of messing around. They were talking with a slave girl named Tituba, and Tituba had come from the island culture of the Caribbean, and had picked up some maybe some black magic kind of stuff, little reading fortunes and telling people's futures through reading tea leaves and things like that, or just those kinds of things. Not really witchcraft, just but it was witchcraft in the eyes of the Puritans, that's for sure. And these two teenage girls decided they were going to cause a scene, basically. They acted like they had been infected, or a spell had been put upon them. They started acting really crazy. Later on, they sort of confessed that they made the whole thing up. But that was all it took for the adults in the community of Salem to start pointing fingers at people. These girls have been bewitched. They have had a evil spell put on them. And it turned into this time frame that people went on way too long. People just getting accused falsely of being witches, and it led to this thing called the Salem witch trials, where they were put on trial. And here's the funny thing about it, maybe not funny, but weird. If you confessed to being a witch and you agreed to help identify other witches, you were set free. If you confessed and apologized and said you were sorry for everything, and especially if you pointed out, oh, but that person over there, who I probably don't like very much, is a witch, well, you'd be freed. But if you did not confess to being a witch, they put you on trial and likely found you guilty, and you were hanged by the neck until dead. And I believe 19 people over the course of the Salem witch trial time in Salem, Massachusetts, were executed. The majority of them were women, and one old man was pressed to death, which means they put a board over you, lay you on the ground, put a board over you, and slowly pile rocks upon you until you either confess or you die, because your chest is crushed and you can't breathe. This man didn't confess and he died. He was an old man too. So the trials were crazy too. In fact, at one point, the jury actually found one of the accused witches innocent, and the judge says, nah, I'm not going to accept that, go back and try again. They came back the second time and found her guilty, hanged. They allowed something called spectral evidence in these trials. This is really weird. That meant that even if you had a Loctite alibi, somebody accused you of coming over and bewitching them, and you said, I couldn't have done that, I was across town, they could say that your spirit left your body and went across town and cast a spell on somebody. How are you going to defend yourself against that? But that was acceptable evidence in these trials. So, really crazy stuff. So watch this video that gives you some more details, and then I'm going to come back and explain to you what you're going to do for your assignment. It should be a pretty fun assignment. It's always fun to grade them at least. So take a look at the next video, and then I'll be right back.